Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I want to talk about the idea of how quitting is actually easy and really expand upon that. Now, before I fully dive into what that means and how it applies to your life, I want to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So let's get into this. For me, I grew up around sports, and specifically the sport that I played at a high school and college level was soccer. And I still play pickup to this day. And, for us, one of the first lessons that was kind of drilled into me was this idea that the body has more to give than the mind allows and wants to let on, right? When you're being asked to do jumping jacks for, whatever amount, or do 50 push-ups or something like that, right? You're being pushed to your limit, and your mind is telling your body no, this is hard, just stop. When in fact, the body has more to give. And that's a very powerful lesson there for me, especially when you combine it with this idea that in this social media age, but it's not just social media, I think it was inherent before this, we have the tendency and the desire to appear one way, but don't necessarily want to do the work, right? So, in the creative space, a lot of people want to say they're writers, but they don't want to write. There's even people that I've met that want to be, quote, actors, aka have movies out, but they don't like the process of acting that it actually entails. Or take anything, musician, poet, painter, yada, 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 right? So, and in a way, through the modern age, it's become a little bit easier to be able to project a certain image of oneself versus what that is. In soccer, interestingly enough, there's a lot of people who come for, especially pickup, and, they'll be dressed apart. They'll have a professional jersey on and so forth, slick back hair, and, 10 minutes into it, they're winded and yada, yada. And I say all this because that's the side of things I'm not interested in. I'm someone who's interested in matching talk the talk, but walk the walk as well, right? And part of it is there's a worry within me that it becomes too easy, because quitting is easy, right? And in a way, through sort of an extended version of self-help and so forth, we've made it okay to quit on things. And especially in the reason why I brought up soccer is because it's a team sport, and the notion for us when we were growing up, it was you never quit on your team. You just don't do that. Everyone pushes each other to elevate them, right? And, and I say all this because there's really no evil in the world. It's an otherwise good trait taken to an extreme. And, the idea of boundaries and self-care as it relates to self-help, I think are much needed ones, because the pendulum's been so opposite of that for so long. But then we can't extend it to where we just slack off on our responsibilities, and the fact that, I can see this evidenced in micro ways, such as a soccer field where, at a pickup game, someone's just literally just letting an attacker go by them and they could care less. To me, it's not about the idea, especially when it relates to soccer, that you have to be a professional in any capacity or as good as, everyone on the field, but just the effort of it, right? And when you just show no effort, that's what irks me the most. And, as it relates to professional life and so forth, when we talk about like the team, I just think it's become far too allowed for people to just slack off on certain responsibilities of like, oh, I didn't do that. Or I didn't get to that. As if it has no meaning. It's like, okay, well, because the thing of it is, again, it's not a sense of punishment. If something needs to get done, right? Let's say a show, that you're working on needs to happen or whatever, and it needs to go out at such and such time. Well, then, if something's preventing you or anyone on the team from being able to do that, then let's bring it up and we can solve for that. But you can't just, oh, I didn't get to it, as if it's no big deal, right? Quitting is easy in that sense, and especially when you normalize the idea that, responsibility, like whatever, it's not a big deal. It should be a big deal, and that's, for me, I draw the line on these things, and I want to still maintain a certain standard. And it doesn't mean that it has to get to a level of toxicity. Like I said, that's why, like, as things arise and so forth, we should bring these things up and we can help each other out. But when it has no meaning, then it doesn't even occur, and then therefore it doesn't get brought up. A couple of weeks ago I did an episode about how, just because you're positive doesn't mean you're an automatically good person. And I really explored it in that way, and this is tangential to that because, just because you say nice things to a person doesn't mean you might not be making their life a living hell. And so I do get worried about some of these things when quitting becomes normalized and becomes easy. And it is, in a lot of ways. Like, it starts with us mentally. We have to really reflect upon that. That's why when it all's said and done, I started with the soccer aspect, and what I got taught was that the body has more to give than the mind wants to think it. When we don't police it within ourselves, it becomes difficult. Or when someone does raise it, like, hey, like, what you did wasn't fair, or like, you could do a better job or so forth. If we start to lash out at the people around us that we can trust, right? Not the assholes, but the people that we can trust and that have our well-being in mind, like mentors and coaches and so forth. That's when, in my mind, it gets insidious, and it becomes an allowance to not do anything. And the problem, I get it. Like, part of it is it gets into gray territory very easily because, so many of us are being asked to do so many different things all the time that we feel overwhelmed and so forth. But again, part of that is like how we start to combat that is we have to speak up and say, like, hey, like, how do you want to approach this? Like, I can't, you give me 10 things, I can get 6 of them done today. I can do the rest tomorrow, but tomorrow we have X, Y, and Z. Like, people got to speak up. Because quitting just automatically and being like, oh, well, I didn't do it, is not the answer. Because eventually that's going to lead to if it's a work thing, you being fired, or B, just an asshole. As in the case with the dudes on the soccer team who just quit on a play. It's like, you're physically on the field, but mentally you're not there. That's not good. So these are just some of the things I think about, right? And as I said, there's no easy answer to a lot of this stuff. They are worth considering. And so I hope I've given you enough to really consider and think about. in how to, apply it to your life. But as always, if you have any questions or thoughts of your own, please share them down in the comment section or hit me up on social media at Svitek. And if you like what I do and want to support me and also interact on a more deeper level, then consider signing up for my Patreon at patreon.com/PhilSvitek. There's various tiers of contribution that you can give, and they give you, different rewards. Or, support my art. I have a novel out, I have a nonfiction book out, I have a movie out. All that stuff is available to you. I have merchandise. All that stuff is available to you through philsvitek.com/products. The link is also in the description box, so, check it out, I'm very proud of the art that I create, and, as a 360 creative coach, I can teach these things because I do these things, right? That's what makes it wonderful. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you next time.